come out. The Kangaroos popped away to glory. Samoa caused some amazing scenes. And how far did the host nation of England go in the finals? Next then, hello and welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby. Just Mark Hendrick again. It's currently still suspended from what I have mentioned previously. Bit of a break between the last episode and this one's just stuff getting in the way. That was all. But we're here wrapping up all of the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and final of the Rugby League World Cup for 2021, albeit a year later than when it should have been. But we're here, we've made it to the end, and let's get straight into it. Starting off with the quarterfinals, we have got Australia beating Lebanon 48 points to 4. Now, pretty much from the get-go again, Australia just dominated from the start like they have done on numerous times in this World Cup campaign. So rattling off through all the tries and all the lead-up work to it all for this matchup. We've got Nathan Cleary, who passed on to Cameron Munster, who went on to Latrell Mitchell, to Josh Adokar, who went over in the corner as the defence from the Lebanese side came across the field, but in the end, they came across the field, and in the end, there was just too many numbers for the Kangaroos compared to the Lebanon side, and that's what helped Adokar get there as well. And also, like I said, beautiful lead up work there. Next up, we had James Tedesco breaking a tackle breaking an attempt to tackle from the Lebanese side, but they failed to tackle him, and he got through. And with only the fullback to contest with, Adokar was there in support and passed the ball to him. And for his second try in a row, Adokar scores yet again. This one had a little bit more entertainment to it. This one was Adokar again for his third try in a row. And Nathan Cleary bomb, he put it up in the field. It was close, well, it come down pretty much right on the try line there. Lebanon by a Lebanon player by the name of Jake Carraz. He had the ball started, made a little bit of ground, but not much. But then Cameron Munster had a successful one-on-one strip and got the ball back and then passed it to Adokar. So it's unfortunate for the young guy there, Joe Carraz, because we know what he is well and truly capable of. And you just had to watch some of his games for the Bulldogs in season 2022, how well he played, and it really helped when he had the ball because he could do magical things. That wasn't a magical moment for him though. Pretty similar to the first try for the Aussies, but this time the ball didn't quite go up to Adokar and made it only to Latrell Mitchell, but there was plenty of room for him, and he went for himself. He went for a gap, yet again outnumbered, and put in another try for the Aussies to make it 4-0 very early on in the match. Next one, another try for the Aussies. This one from Nathan Cleary yet again, setting up another try. He puts Angus Crichton into some space and then manages to get the ball to young Cameron Murray to score the try. So he adds his name to this try scoring sheet. Following on, this time the young dummy half from Melbourne, Harry Grant, he was running one way towards out of the field, but then he passed the ball to Cameron Murray, who was running back in the other way, so kind of like this old switcheroo kind of thing. And he goes in to score Cameron Murray. So beautiful bit of a trick play there. He tried to trick Lebanon into making them go one way and then had to quickly change the defense the other way. But they obviously didn't do it quick enough, and that's what let Cameron Murray through. And it was also within 10 meters, so that trying to stop Cameron Murray close to the line, it's a pretty hard task, and Lebanon failed to do that indeed. Speaking of Lebanon, there was a they had the chance to get the ball, but they stuffed up with getting it up. So of trying to get it. So that allowed Latrell Mitchell again getting involved in play. He was one of the really key players in this match, and same with Cleary, Tedesco, and Adokar. So pretty much the whole back line indeed. It was just that Murray Taulagi and Valentine Holmes were a little bit quiet in this match, but everyone else in the back line were pretty full on and involved in a lot of plays. But Latrell Mitchell skipped up the ball and passed to Adokar for his fourth try in the match. So unbelievable 4 tries. And I believe it was still in the first half as well, which is even more incredible than what it sounds like. But you don't see 4 tries happen often in the first half. Finally, Lebanon get a try on the ball from Mitchell Moses, who put in a nice little rubber kick for the in-goal area, and it wasn't cleared away from Cameron Munster because it looked like Cameron Munster got to the ball first, and he just didn't whack it out. He was hoping to shield the ball to make it go dead so that Aussies could have got a 20-meter tap restart, but he didn't knock it clear, and that allowed the like of Josh Mansour to score the try. And that was the one and only try of the match there for Lebanon, unfortunately. The next one goes to Adokar for his 5th try in the match. He didn't quite break the record set by Valentine Holmes of 6 tries in one match for the Kangaroos. I think that was set back in the 2017 World Cup when Australia and New Zealand hosted the World Cup then. But speaking of Valentine Holmes, he's the one that set up the ball. He got the ball away to Harry Grant, who then who gets through the defensive line, who got through the defensive line and passes to Cameron Munster, who put in there a nice little grubber kick for Josh Adokar, aka the Fox, and get his try. And the last try of the match went to Liam Martin from Harry Grant, who set up him beautifully. It was a short pass to Martin, who crashed over from long range. So overall, as you could tell, Australia clearly dominated this match in Lebanon and knocked them out of the finals. Into the next game, we had England trouncing PNG 46 points to 6. Pretty much similar story to Australia in a way. England just too dominant from the get-go. It was hard for PNG to put on the performance, which I think should have been a bit better because we know what PNG are very capable of. They just couldn't quite get there, but coming up against a top side like England, it was always going to be a very hard task. And the scoreline does show that indeed. Let's start off with the try scoring for the whole match. Let's go with Tom Burgess. Wow, not even the real word. Somehow he got the ball down underneath the crossbar from a Michael McElroy pass. It looked like from the camera angle, it looked like that Tom Burgess didn't actually get the ball down like near low because of the padding and the post in the way. But also another camera angle shows that he did get it down. So very much, you could say a lucky try there for Tom Burgess in England to open their account. Following that one was a beautiful grubber kick from Sam Tompkins to Tommy Makinson. Beautiful link up there, as we all know what they are quite capable of in the Super League. Tommy Makinson picks up the ball and scores over in the corner. This time, another one to Dominic Young, who gets another try for himself in the World Cup. He's been absolute try scoring weapon for England for the entirety of this World Cup campaign. And hopefully he brings it back to Newcastle for season 2023 because they really do need him to be firing. But back to this one, a little chip kick over the top is batted back by Victor Radley. who then passed the ball to Callum Watkins, who went into space and got in, passed the ball again to Dominic Young, who went over for, I think they said it was his ninth try of the campaign. That's unbelievable effort there. Following on from that, a Tommy Makerson try, who got it from a beautiful George Williams bomb kick that had just around the right amount of height for him to like, for him to get from where he was on the wing into where the ball was going to land, and the right length to do so. It wasn't too short of the try line, but it wasn't too deep into the end goal. It was just beautifully weighted, you could say there, and it was a beautiful take on Tommy Makerson as well. That's above all of the PNG defence, and it's virtually nearly untouched in the air. Following on from that one, another England try. This time started off by John Bateman, who found a gap, ran ran straight through it all, and then passed the ball to Sam Tompkins, I should say. And then he passes on to Callum Watkins, who was in support, and then George Williams was there to back him up again. And with the PNG defence trying to stop George Williams, that wasn't quite enough because it was like a one-on-one tackle. And it rate that George Williams was going, there was no way PNG were able to stop him. And so he just slid his way over with carrying a PNG defender with him. Again, Dominic Young getting involved with Victor Radley. This time, Radley does a long cutout ball to John Dunn on the wing. It broke away from the PNG defence like he can do with his speed he has got, and his tallness has helped with in his long legs, has helped him a fair bit in this game. Well, not in this game, this entire World Cup, and I intended to see it, and he didn't quite make it though. But he passed it on to Callum Watkins, who scored the first try for, well, his first try of the match, I should say, not for the first try of the match there. Again, Tommy Makerson involved. He was on fire in this one, Tommy Makerson. He got 5 tries, so very similar to Adokar, absolutely on fire to win this one. Well, for Adokar and Makerson. But this Tommy Makerson try would have been probably the easiest one he ever scored in the World Cup, if not in his career. Alex Johnston couldn't catch the ball on the full in the end goal for a 20-meter tap from a kick, but it landed on the ground, and Tommy Makerson was there to plant the ball down. Initially, the referee called it for a 20-meter tap, as he thought Alex Johnston did catch the ball, but a captain's challenge from England changed that around, because one camera shot shows that Alex Johnston knocked the ball on when he was trying to catch it. Well, it kind of went into his hand and then it kind of went out, so it wouldn't have classified as a knock on in the end goal, and it was on the ground, which allowed Makerson to pick it up and score a try. So, fancy captain's challenge, allowing a try to score, even though it wasn't, the captain's challenge wasn't for the try, it was for the for the decision of the 20-meter tap, which happened to lead to a try. So it's maybe a bit of a loophole in the system that may need to get looked at for the future. But if it's within the rules, it's within the rules, and there's only have a try. So good work there from the video referee. The defense of PNG for this one, making Sydney for his 4th try of the match, it's just beautifully through the hands in the lead up to him, and the PNG defense just come in and up. And there was nothing else they could do. Once they're up in the face of England, and there was plenty of space out wide for Makinson, it's hard to come back right for that one. So PNG really did that one to themselves. I think England would have scored regardless of what PNG did, but that just really helped them a little bit more. PNG finally get a try, but In all honesty, it was only a consolation try. A little grubber kick from Alex Johnson, who finds the Gutley to score from the grubber kick out. Not quite in the quarter, but in a little bit for the quarter, but allowed them to score and get some points on the board. And finally, Tommy Makerson gets his fifth try of the match as Sam Tompkins again started an all-offie pass to George Williams, who then threw the ball out to Makerson to go over. He still had a little bit of work to do, Tommy Makerson. It was a fair way back on the try line, but his speed and skill is unbelievable, as we've seen numerous times during the 2022 Super League campaign. And that Makinson Tompkins combination is an absolute ripper of a combination there. So overall, PNG are knocked out from the World Cup for 2021, with England progressing through to the next round of finals. The next game of the quarterfinals was New Zealand down in Fiji 24-18. This one was a very, very good contest all match. I thought Fiji would have had a decent chance, and they did. And I wasn't expecting for New Zealand to come back the way they did, but the name of Jerome Hughes pretty much says it all, really. He's been outstanding this entire World Cup campaign for New Zealand, and he has carried that on through from his season with the Melbourne Storm. And surprisingly, I think caught a lot of people off guard, and a lot of people unexpectedly thought this, but Fiji were the first team to score a try via Maka Sivo, who barged his way over from a little short pass on Billy Army kick out. He still had to do a bit of work, Sivo, but we know his strength. We know what he's like when he's close to the try line. And he just powered his way through and like really shoved off the New Zealand defenders. There's no way they were going to stop him whatsoever, as they know. What he can do to the defence in the NRL season when he was playing for Parramatta is he's close to the try line. And people try stopping him, he just dumps them out of the way. Awesome to watch there. The chant of Seabold would have been going around big time, especially at Parramatta. Next up, another try for Fiji. Back-to-back tries for Fiji was very unexpected indeed. And this time, Kevin Nagama, he come around and improved the precision from Taroba, who got the ball and just pretty much passed it to Nagama. So nothing too exciting in the lead-up work for this try, but still, he had enough room to improve the precision, which is always good for the goal kicker indeed. Finally, New Zealand get the first point on the board as Jerome Hughes passed out to Dylan Brown, who got the ball onto Renato Mulatalo to go over in the corner. New Zealand beforehand did have a few attempts, but just fell short or made too many errors, made a couple of errors for them to execute a try, but finally it happened here. The Hughes-Brown combination has been awesome for New Zealand this World Cup campaign. That's one to watch in the future, and they're only pretty young too, so they'll still have a lot of years left together with them. It's kind of like the next generation halves after Foran and Johnson when they were playing for New Zealand in international games when they were a few years ago. Next up, Fiji scored a third try through Kevin Nagama again, just goes down the short side of the field and scores. There was really nothing that New Zealand could do. I mean, they tried stopping him, but down the short side, there wasn't that much room for Nagama, but he still managed to get there. And that shows how good he is. And coming from the St. Helens team that has won 4 titles in a row, that's just unbelievable there. And also having his time at the Roosters too in the last couple of years has helped that build his confidence and his skill over the last few seasons. Britton Nakora broke a tackle from Fiji, and he barges over after he got a ball from Jerome Hughes. So Jerome Hughes did again, past it, setting up yet another try. I don't know how many tries he set up in total for the World Cup. I know it was a lot. Let's put it that way. Then, like I said, close to the line, the Cora broke a tackle and scored a try. Another try to Joey Manu in New Zealand. This one, he it was pretty much close to the line and too much speed. We know what he's capable of. Too much speed and got his way over the line to pretty much all but seal New Zealand's victory for them to progress through to the next stage. But this one, sorry, I've made an error there. Joey Manu is the one that locked up those scores with Dylan Brown setting up a long pass to Jordan Rapana, who goes over in the corner to seal that win for New Zealand to send them through to the next round of the finals for the World Cup. And the final game, if that makes sense, Tonga went down to Samoa 20 points to 18. So Samoa getting 20 and Tonga getting 18 there. But it was a very close matchup. And that's what it was, a game that everyone expected. Nice, close, physical matchup. But the outcome, no one really expected Samoa to beat Tonga, as we know what Tonga is capable of, and with the likes of Jason Taumalolo in the Tongan side, that should have helped them, but obviously it didn't in this matchup. But also in saying that, Samoa were getting, after a slow start to their pool fixtures, they were getting better and better and better and better. And this one progressed them through. Not many tries scored in this one, as it was a fairly close contest. But this time, with the start off, Samoa scored by Jaden Sewer, who got a beautiful pass from Anthony Milford, and Sewer just absolutely cut the Tongan defense open and went in to score pretty much virtually next to the posts. That got Samoa off to a beautiful start indeed there. But it didn't last long, as Daniel Tupou got a great pass with not much room between him getting the ball and the sideline, but he still somehow managed to get the ball down to level up the scores, or near level of scores, I should say, for Tonga there. But that didn't last long, as Jerome Luai scored himself after stepping a couple of times and created a gap in the Tonga defensive line and allowed him to go straight through that gap that he created and put Samoa out in front again. Another top performer is Jerome Luai, all campaign, coming out of that brilliant Penrith Panthers system. He's just absolutely puts that, and even without Matthew Cleary there, we know what he's capable of. Usually Cleary takes the show, but Luai, he was absolutely taking the show for Samoa. Not in just this game, but for the entire World Cup. He has been one of the absolute standout players for Samoa there, and I'd say he's definitely the future key player there for Samoa, and potentially maybe a future captain there. But you do have Joseph Suaalii in that side as well, who could also potentially be a captain for Samoa in the future, but you just never know what happens there. Next up, Taki Aho for Tonga puts in a grubber kick, and there was no one else there to get it, and he put a kick, and there was no one there to scoop it up, I should say, from the Samoan side, but he got there quick enough and got the ball to score himself. So he set up a try assist for himself and scored himself. This one was a little bit too easy for Brighton. We definitely know what he's like, not only for Samoa, but for Penrith as well. And his combination with Luai is just unbelievable. He placed the ball down and went in untouched as Tonga missed the ball from the crossfield kick, and it went onto the ground and rolled kind of back out into the field of play or bounced its way back out. Toto was there with no one around him to put the ball down in the indoor area. Uh, to pretty much put Samoa into the position to win. But it's not over quite yet as Moses Suli went straight to a massive gap in the Samoan defensive line. He then passed to Sione Katoa, who then finished it off. But he thought it might have been off for absolute thriller, and maybe Tonga could have come back. But by the time the full-time silent came, it wasn't to be, with Samoa progressing through to the semi-finals and knocking out a heavyweight, you could say, of Tonga, which everyone expected to make the semi-finals indeed, but not to be. Rugby league is a funny game, and things tend to be different than what everyone thinks to be. So we're now into the quarter-final stage. So if you win this one, you're through to the final of the World Cup. If not, you are ruled out for the rest of the campaign. So we had Australia playing New Zealand and England playing Samoa. The first game was Australia up against the Kiwis, and Australia came out victorious this one by a mere 2 points off the scoreline of 68 points to 14. To start off, it was a very, very entertaining clash indeed, like it always is between New Zealand and Australia, and it got a little bit heated in the match with a better push and shove, which was to be expected. There always is to be expected in the Trans-Tasman rivalry. To start off with, New Zealand got the first try of this match up with a kick from Dylan Brown that landed in the hands of Sharon Hughes, who went over the try line and scored. But the lead was cut back down as Benny Hunt put in a bomb kick and thought it was going to go into the hands of the Kiwis, but out of absolutely nowhere, the Flying Fox, or whatever you want to call it, the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, the Flying Fox, whatever you want to call him, he come out of absolutely nowhere, took clean possession of the ball and scored the first try with Aussies. He was way, way, way back. I think he had to try and gain like 15, 20 meters before the ball comes down, and he somehow managed to do it there. And I don't recall who the New Zealand defender was, but it was pretty much no chance once Adokar got there, and he pretty much was looking at the ball, see where it was at, and was running at pretty much nearly full speed. Took it clean, just kept on running and scored quite easily. Yeah, a beautiful try. So that was one of the, I know it was the best try of the World Cup, but it was one of the best tries of the World Cup, and definitely one of the best tries of the finals series for the World Cup. Following on from that, Jack Whiten broke free of a tackle and on the ground, and he still managed to get the ball away to Valentine Holmes, who put the ball down. It was pretty much straightforward anyway. I mean, to pass from Jack Whiten, because he was down so low to the ground, he could have easily passed it to one of the New Zealanders, but it had enough power behind it to find Val Holmes. He just strolled in, really. He didn't slide over, he just put the ball in quite easily there. And New Zealand scored yet again after Manoa Mulatoa ran down the sideline. He then started coming back infield, so if the Australian defence made it, he wouldn't have to get the risk of going over into touch. But that he didn't have to worry about that. Dylan Brown was right there, and he passed it back to Brown, who went in to score to put New Zealand back in front, which then was capped off by Australian Kangaroos try by Cameron Murray from a 10-metre free start. He gets the ball, I think, from Harry Grant, from the Harry Grant tap. Murray gets the ball and went straight in over. He caught, I think the point of that play was to catch New Zealand off guard, and they definitely did. Even the commentators said that New Zealand weren't quite ready for that. And that was the try that they needed with Cleary getting the conversion to send Australia through to their 2021 Rugby League World Cup final that was held at Old Trafford, the scene of where we saw St Helens win the fourth title in a row for the Betfred situation. And the final of the semi-finals, this one was an absolute major upset. No one expected this result to go this way. Back to what I was saying was Samoa causing some amazing scenes. Well, not only did they cause some amazing scenes to get to the semi-final, and the next part of it was how far did the host nation go? Well, causing scenes is what happened with Samoa after they beat New Zealand. Samoa beat England 27 points to 26 in an absolute thriller of a match. So England got knocked out at the semi-final stage, one game away, 80 minutes away from playing in the final. And being the host nation, that would have been very disappointing for not only the England fans, but the team as a whole, trying to make the final and win on home soil, you could say. But they went down to Samoa, which was absolutely incredible. It was an absolute thrill of the game too. It was like try for try all the way through. But before I get too much to the exciting part, I'll go through the entirety of the try scoring in the matchup. To start off with was Jerome Luai passed the one ball out to Tim Laffey, who went in to score the first try of the matchup. Indeed. Yet again, Luai getting a hand in the try and another try, scoring assist indeed there. Next up, we have England score with George Williams throwing a little dummy, so a fake pass, before getting past the defensive line of Samoa, and then he passed the ball off to his former teammate Elliot Whitehead to get England finally on the board there and lock the score up at 6 apiece. Then following that, we had Samoa get yet another try, this time from Liggy Sao. He went straight from dummy half and into a gap. Straight up, it was easy as for Liggy Sao. I don't know what the defense of England were doing, but they weren't there at all. It was kind of my little trick on Rugby League Live 4, which our gaming series of that is still in progress. That has been recorded, just needs to get time to get the audio recorded and the commentary for that one. So it is coming. Stay tuned. It will be coming hopefully during the off season, which for us isn't very long indeed. But yeah, straight from dummy half, and in he went. Simple as. This time England get another try by a Tim Laffey knock on. The ball went back, the ball went back, and Johnny Bateman was there to pick it up and put England in front. This was in the in-goal area as well, so not quite in the in-goal area. Well, it was, but it wasn't. So Tim Laffey knocked the ball back out, or knocked on in the in-goal, but then the ball went back out just before the try line in the field of play. And then Bateman picked it up and scored on the underneath the crossfired and make it it would have been an easy conversion, but a bit easier of a conversion for, I believe it was Sam Tompkins. Correct me if I'm wrong. Next up, Samoa go back in front. This with John Wooler yet again dancing his way through, dancing his way towards the try line. He passes to Junior Paolo, who got the pass back out to Jerome Wooler and cracked it back to Steve Crichton and put Samoa back in front. So this was setting up to be an absolute cracker of a game, and it still was. We're about halfway through the match, and it's absolutely insane. Bit of an error from young Dominic Young. He came rushing out of the line to try and shut down Jerome Wooler, but that didn't quite work in his favour. Well, I shouldn't say quite. It didn't work in their favour at all heavily, as Luai got the ball away to Tim Lafayette, who got there for his second try of the match and extended the lead for Samoa. Next up, we had England try to come back to make it a converted try. We're having a converted try difference, a 2-point difference, as Sam Tompkins got the ball from Jack Wilsey, and he got the ball to Herbie Farnworth, who went in to score and put England back in the contest. Because it looked like the Samoa was playing, so England was going to be down and out, but they somehow found a way to come back. But that glory didn't last long. Well, that one, as Steve Crichton got an intercept right around long range for Samoa back in front by 6, as a pre-finish England had lost the score at 20 points. Also, with that Crichton try and the conversion, we made it up to 26-20 in favour of Samoa. Heading into the last few minutes of the match, and Sam Williams again. I'm not Sam Williams, my apologies there. George Williams, who has been a bit of a standout player for England in the World Cup campaign for them. He broke to the line. He had Herbie Farnworth in support, and he chose to pass it to Farnworth, and he put his foot down. He'd come in to improve decision for Tommy Mason take the kick as Mason was out to the left of Farnworth, but he didn't need it, and Mason pointed his finger to say, come back into it a little bit to kick a bit easier. And that locked up the points at 26 all at the end of the 80 minutes. So that means at the end of the 80 minutes, we headed into Golden Point, and the first opportunity from Samoa was by Anthony Milford, but his drop goal / field goal, same thing, whatever you want to call it, attempt was charged down. Didn't look like England had many chances of really getting a drop goal or scoring a try in Golden Point. But this time, a few minutes later, Anthony Milford was in position to take another drop goal. But Stephen Crichton, the man of the moment, he was back further. He had no defence rushing up to him. He took the time in there. He had plenty of time to get a drop goal. He slotted it over to make history in the World Cup, and I think I believe history as well. As Samoa being the first Tier 2 nation to make it through to the final of the World Cup ever, which is absolutely incredible. And the celebration for Samoa after that was unbelievable. It was nearly as good as Jonathan Thurston's field goal to win the premiership for the Cowboys against the Broncos in 2015. That it was so special to watch and unbelievable scenes. Yeah, so that puts us through to the final of the World Cup, making it Australia v Samoa. Now, Samoa would have been going into this match with very, very high hopes, and we're hoping to do extremely well in this match. But coming up against Australia, it was always going to be a tough task. But you could have said the same thing coming up against England, and it was a tough task, but I still managed to do it. but unfortunately Samoa went down to Australia. But good for the Aussies. I mean, being an Aussie myself, it was an awesome win for us, beating Samoa 30 points to 10. Just I personally, if Australia lost the World Cup final, I would have been disappointed. But at the same time, I would have been over the moon for Samoa to win it. They have done so well in the entire World Cup. So in a way, I'm very happy that Australia won, but also um, feel sorry for the Samoans that didn't get defeated and made it oh so far. And they could have made history if they won the World Cup. They would have been the first tier two nation to win the World Cup. And they already made history by making it to the final, but just came a bit short for the win. But how this game panned out, we had Latrell Mitchell get an opener in the final as he got a beautiful pass from Nathan Cleary, who had a lot of involvement in this match, as well as Tedesco as always. And for Samoa, Joan Uwe, yes, again. This next try we had Josh Adaka breaking through the defense of Samoa. Then the fullback of Joseph Suaalii to contenders, but he had James Tedesco, the Australian captain, in support, and the captain scored in the final, which is what you love to see. You love to see the captain of the country score in the final match, or the final of the World Cup, or any match really, let alone with Origin or normal regular clubland footy. Following off on that try, Harriet Grant goes to the short side, and then he threw a short pass to Lee Martin, who goes over, trying to stop Lee Martin so close to the try line. He's pretty much near impossible to do with the size of him and just the strength as well. Trying to stop a big forward or second rower close to the try line is nearly impossible. That has worked in the past, but nowadays it's just a little bit too impossible. So we love to see it when it happens. So following off, I know we have Nathan Cleary yet again getting involved in setting up the Australia. Passed the ball, a beautifully passed ball to Cameron Murray to push the Aussies further in front. And by this point, it pretty much looked like that Samoa out of the running and Australia had pretty much all but locked up the World Cup. But in saying that, Luai skipped his way across the field for Samoa's first try of the match. I got that correctly. Yeah. So Luai skipped his way across the field, pass out to Timmy McHoy, pass on the ball, and Toto got the first points on the board for Samoa. So it was pretty straightforward for Samoa and Toto to score that try. Toto pretty much winning untouched. But the rate that Samoa was playing looked like they could have been on the comeback mission, but Australia had a different view on that. The switch towards the outside, so Kevin must have started running on the outside, running to the outside. But they decided to pass. We went back infield to Tedesco, like passed back infield to Tedesco, which created the gap. From when most of the switch by unit go one way, run one way, that pass it back the other way. And they'll let the hold to the form for Tedesco to go in and get his second try of the match. So 2 tries for the Australian captain. It was probably a little too late, 10 minutes ago. Steve Crichton yet again getting an intercept try. I believe that was 2 intercept tries in as many games. Yes, that is correct there. To potentially maybe get Samoa back in the game. It's scored been 26 then, I believe, this score was. at that point in the match. But in the end, it wasn't to be, as on the final minutes of the match, Latrell Mitchell scored the final try for the match after Liam Martin passed the Cleary, who passed long to Mitchell, had a massive hole in front of him. For the final try of the match, the final try of the World Cup, the final try for Australia, and the one that I pretty much, or like I said, pretty much sealed a few tries back, but confirmed with a minute ago, it sealed it all for Australia to win the 2021 Rugby League World Cup and the third World Cup in a row. And also Latrell Mitchell scoring a first try and last try of the match just makes it that little bit better for the Aussies, with obviously our captain James Tedesco lifting the shield, well not shield, it's a trophy I should say, up very high and proud of what his team had done from the World Cup from start to finish. I believe that Australia went through the entire World Cup without a single loss. I'm just going to definitely check that. Yeah, in the group stages, we beat Fiji, and beat Scotland, beat Italy, beat Lebanon, New Zealand. Yeah. So the whole entire World Cup, Australia went undefeated, which is an absolute brilliant record to have. Just briefly touching on the women's and wheelchair matches there. That's the finals for them. I don't, don't remember up to from last time in the pool matches there. So come to the semi-finals, we have Australia versus PNG. Australia absolutely thumped PNG 82 points to nil. So that was PNG over and out. New Zealand beat England 20 points to 6. So England are gone. So both in the men's and women's host nation were knocked out. With the final setting up to be Australia versus New Zealand, where Australia won that one quite convincingly, 54 points to 4. So the Jillaroos and the Kangaroos have both wrapped up the respective World Cup for men's and women's. And for the wheelchair rugby league, we had that massive scoreline of 154 points to 6 with our last mentioned in the last game, last episode. We had another reasonable scoreline. We had in round 2, we had England beating Spain 104 points to 12. We also had France beat Scotland 80 points to 15. Well, another two absolute blowout scores in round 3 of the wheelchairs, where England beat Ireland 121 to 0. And we also had France beat the USA 116 to 6. Heading into the semi-finals, we had France France versus Australia, and Australia got knocked out after France won 84 points to 40. And then the other final, we had England France fails 125 points to 22, which set up for a France-England final, which was a very close matchup, but France lost that one and England won. So at least they won something out of the World Cup while being the host nation there. England won 28 points to 24. Just briefly, we have got there. We'll go into more detail heading into the next season. If not, we may not have one more episode of season 2 for the Sideline Chat podcast. We have to wait and see for that one. There, depending on what my co-host says. I believe this is the last one, but don't quote me on that one. The NRL draw has been released from start to finish. The Super League draw was released a few months ago. We've also got a pre-season challenge for the NRL we'll go into more detail, as I said, soon in the coming episodes. There's only two rounds, with not all teams getting involved, but just quickly, round one of the pre-season challenge, you've got the Warriors taking on the Tigers, the Knights taking on the Sharks, the Rabbitohs taking on the Sea Eagles, the Eagles taking on the Panthers, the Dragons taking on St. Helens. So the week before the World Club Challenge between St. Helens and Penrith, they come out and play St. George Illawarra Dragons the week prior. So you've got Saints versus Saints and Rugby versus Rugby. That should be an absolute cracker of a match. See who comes out on top. Which, as a Dragons fan, I think St. Helens will, but you never know if whether or not St. Helens field a full strength side or not. And you also got Storm versus the Roosters, the Raiders versus the Bulldogs, Cowboys versus the Dolphins, and the Broncos versus the Titans. And in the second week of the pre-season, you've got the Knights taking on the Eels, the Roosters taking on the Sea Eagles, the Dragons taking on the Rabbitohs in the Charity Shield, followed by the Panthers versus St. Helens. That's Knights, then the Broncos, Cowboys, Warriors, Storm, Tigers, and Raiders, and the Bulldogs, Sharks, Dolphins, and the Titans. So that wraps up not only the 2021 World Cup debrief, we'll quickly run through pre-season for the NRL, which we'll go into more detail, and also what Connor and I think of each of the Super League, 12 Super League teams and the 17 NRL teams where we think they'll finish for the season in 2023, and all what we think are their signings and losses will do to affect them. So that's it. So follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Sideline Chat, with Twitter at Sideline Chat RL. Like the video if you love this content and all the other ones. Please subscribe and ring the bell to get notifications. Well, that's pretty much the rugby league season all wrapped up and dusted for season 2022. Now we're off into off season. On behalf of Connor, Marcellus, and myself, we would like to thank you for your support throughout the season, and not only for season 2 but also season 1. We are looking forward to heading into season 3 of having this podcast up and running. Enjoy the off season. I don't know what you're going to do with the rugby league hangover, with having no one with no rugby league around. But there are multiple other sports that you can choose if you want to watch. Like, I don't know, I'll be watching the soccer, try and get as much soccer World Cup in, the Australian soccer and cricket as well. But that's all for different, and we'll be back early next year. Just keep an eye out for our gaming series that we'll have on YouTube. As I said previously, we have got episodes recorded. We just need the commentary over it before we fully release them. Enjoy whatever you're gonna do rugby league wise, and we'll catch you all next time out. Bye for now.